The moment I was born, my family's property was rezoned, and we got 3 new houses. My dad, who'd been out of work for ages, also landed a good job through a referral. But my family favored boys over girls, and they were convinced it was my twin brother, born just minutes before me, who brought them all this luck. So they sold me to human traffickers. Not long after, the traffickers were all busted. The little boy who'd been tied up next to me took my hand and led me into a huge, fancy house, telling me this was my home now. And just like that, I had an older brother who was basically a rich kid from a Powerrian Beijing family. My brother and I are fraternal twins. He was born only a few minutes before me, but he got all the love and attention in the family. It's because on the day he was born, we got news about the rezoning. Then my dad, who'd been unemployed for a long time, hit a thief with his bike. Just then, the owner of the stolen item showed up. To thank my dad, he got him a good job in the city. When my brother was 2, we moved into a new house in the city, and we still had 2 other properties to rent out. My grandma's chronic leg and back pain, which she'd had for years, suddenly disappeared. She was able to go downstairs and do her square dancing with everyone every day. They all said it was thanks to my brother. He was our family's lucky charm. Even the fortune teller on the street said my brother was destined for wealth and greatness. My mom was so happy she gave the fortune teller $100. I curiously asked if I was also destined for wealth and greatness. But before the fortune teller could even open his mouth, my mom snapped, "You? A money-losing good-for-nothing? You want wealth and greatness? Just don't ruin your brother's good luck." At this, my mom's eyebrows suddenly rose. "Master," she asked, "he won't ruin my son's good fortune, will he?" The fortune teller said, "Don't worry, your son has great fortune, he won't be affected." But even so, on the way back, my mom kept giving me strange looks. It was the same look she used to give Mrs. Wang next door when the gourd she hung on her door for good luck, and to ward off evil, disappeared. She suspected Mrs. Wang had stolen it and thrown it away. "You're not allowed near your brother anymore. Stay away from him, you hear?" My mom said to me fiercely before we even got home. I was conscious but still nodded obediently. That night, my mom made my brother his favorite braised pork. My grandma held his rice bowl, coaxing him to eat. She didn't even get mad when he got rice and soup all over her. Our little lucky charm is so strong. I squatted in the corner, watching the bright red braised pork sauce on my grandma's clothes, and couldn't help but swallow hard. My brother happened to see this. The next day, when my grandma found out the leftover braised pork had been nibbled by a rat, he shouted, "It must have been her. I saw her yesterday." "Uh-huh. So you dared to steal food. Is that something you're allowed to eat?" My grandma grabbed a nearby broom, intending to hit me. I instinctively dodged. The broom missed, and Grandma leaned forward about to fall. I quickly prayed in my heart that Grandma would be okay. The next second, Grandma's hand grabbed a nearby chair, and she steadied herself. But the look she gave me was even more terrifying. "You dare to dodge? See if I don't beat you to death." Grandma raised the broom again and hit me hard. I didn't dare to dodge anymore and curled up on the floor, aching all over. My brother clapped and laughed beside me. My tears finally streamed down uncontrollably. Finally, my grandma got tired of hitting me. She threw down the broom. "You little thief. This will teach you a lesson. If I catch you stealing food again, I'll break your hands. You hear me?" I nodded, trembling. My grandma didn't even glance at me again. She took my brother's hand. "Sweetheart, didn't you say you wanted to eat some chicken? Grandma will take you." "Okay. We won't eat that meat, it's dirty. Our little lucky charm can't eat dirty things." My brother immediately and happily tugged my grandma along. "KFC. Let's go eat KFC." I lay on the cold floor, watching my brother's brand new white shoes bounce past me, kicking up dust that settled all over my face. That night, as punishment for my mistake, my dad kicked me into the storage room. "I work my butt off at the factory, and you're at home stealing things. You're the reason my luck is so bad. You're going to stay in here tonight and think about what you've done." With a loud bang, the room plunged into darkness. I could vaguely hear arguing outside. "It's all your fault for having such a money-losing daughter. You're having a bad day at work, so you take it out on me? I'm the one who gave birth to Lucky, you know." Suddenly my brother yelled, "Be quiet. I can't hear the TV." What's all the Ryans about over a little girl? You're disturbing Lucky. If you ask me, we should just sell her. Save us one less mouth to feed, and we can buy more things for Lucky. Besides, with one more person, Lucky's good fortune will be diluted. Who knows if she'll suck away our family's luck and give it to someone else later on. I leaned against a cardboard box in the corner, hearing my grandma say impatiently. My body was already a bit numb from the pain, but I felt like I was back when I was being beaten, and I couldn't help but clench my clothes tightly. Buying a child isn't that easy, Mom. Don't say things like that anymore, my dad's somewhat irritated voice sounded, but it made me sigh with relief. At least Dad didn't want to sell me. But to prevent my grandma from wanting to sell me again, after I got out of the storage room, I learned to be even more obedient and well-behaved. Sweeping, mopping, clearing the table, and eating only a small bowl of rice at every meal, licking every single grain clean. My parents were afraid I would take away my brother's good luck, so I stayed far away from him. Every day I wished for our family to get better and better. Gradually, my family members smiled more and more. They would often buy my brother all sorts of delicious food and Ryan toys, saying it was all thanks to him that they had encountered such good things that day. But whenever their gazes shifted to me, they would immediately frown, as if they had seen something very unsightly. I would lower my head in fear. One day, my brother ran in from outside, Ryan, and started punching me. You're not my sister. I don't have an ugly sister like you. My mom, who was cooking in the kitchen, rushed out. What's wrong? My brother kicked me one last time and pointed at me, saying the other kids are making Ryan of me for having an ugly monkey sister. Mom, I don't want an ugly monkey sister. She's so ugly, how can she be my sister? Okay, if you don't want her, Mommy will send her away. Don't be angry, okay? Mommy. I cried out, trembling. But my mom didn't pay me any attention. I became even more scared. I could only try harder to do every chore and eat even less. However, I was horrified to find that they frowned at me more and more often. Even occasionally mentioning me would make them frown. You come here. One day, my dad came home from work and yelled at me. I studied his expression and carefully walked over. My dad stared at my face for a while, then bent down and rubbed my face. Why are you so dark? Did you wash your face? A wave of panic suddenly rose in my heart, but facing my dad's question, I still nodded obediently. You're back. My mom came out from the inner room and was stunned for a moment when she saw us. But she quickly seemed to remember something and asked my dad, Did you find someone? Found them. They're waiting outside. My mom looked at me, her eyes holding a complex expression I couldn't understand. She suddenly stroked my head. Let me change her into some new clothes. Women are so troublesome. Hurry up and change, don't make people wait too long. And since you're changing her clothes, wash her face properly. Make her clean. She was born in the same litter as Lucky, how come she's so different? My mom ignored him and pulled my hand towards the bathroom. For the first time, she gently washed my face and changed my clothes, just like she usually treated my brother. I grew more and more afraid. Mommy, I'll be good and listen to you from now on. I won't fight with brother for good luck. I can even give all my good luck to brother. Please don't abandon me, okay? At first, my mom gently wiped my tears, but then she became somewhat irritated. What good luck could you possibly have? Alright, stop crying. Your face will have been washed for nothing. After saying that, my mom roughly wiped my face and pulled me outside. Sardala wabar manchan. Bring back a bottle of soy sauce when you come back. We're almost out. Lucky wants to eat braised pork ribs. Got it. My dad looked down at me. I couldn't help but take a step back. But my dad reached out with both hands and picked me up. You be good. Don't cry, don't make a Ryans. Daddy's taking you to an uncle's house to play, okay? My dad said, covering my mouth. I didn't dare to nod, but I also didn't dare to disobey him. Then my dad took me downstairs to a car in an alley. A chubby man was sitting in the car. He glanced at me with disdain. My dad said fawningly, Don't mind that she's skinny. She's a hard worker, isn't she? My dad looked at me, his eyes threatening. I lowered my head and said nothing. This kid, well, all right. Let's stick to what we agreed on, the chubby man said, grabbing a black bag from the side and tossing it into my dad's arms. My dad opened the bag and glanced inside, his face rayoned of joy. Good, good. She's all yours now. You have to be good and listen to this uncle from now on, understand? My dad said, turning to me. Daddy, are you really not going to want me anymore? I asked, holding on to a last shred of hope. Daddy's just taking you to this uncle's house to play. The chubby man laughed. Why are you telling her so much? A sip of water, and everything will be fine. As he spoke, he held out a bottle of water towards me. I grabbed my dad's clothes, trying to hide behind him, but he held me in place. I couldn't move, watching as the chubby man got closer and closer, pried open my mouth, and poured the water in. Soon my vision blurred, and then my consciousness gradually faded. When I regained consciousness, I was lying on the floor. Around me sat several children about my age. When they saw I was awake, they just glanced at me and then lowered their heads woodenly again. I shrank back in fear, looking at the unfamiliar room with only a sliver of light coming in. Tears belatedly streamed down my face. Daddy. Mummy. Suddenly, a hand appeared in front of my eyes, using its own sleeve to wipe my face. Don't cry. I turned my head. It was a boy a little older than me. His face had several bruises and bloody scratches. The moment I met his gaze, he uncomfortably looked away, and his hand stopped moving. Thank you, I said haltingly. Just then, the sound of a door opening rang out. Before I could react, the boy instantly moved away from me. The fat man who had brought me here walked in. His fleshy face crinkled as his eyes swept over us, and he grinned. Being good, isn't this much better? Everyone except you, dog boy. Come get something to eat. I clenched my fists, watching the other children go forward one by one. In the end, only the boy and I hadn't moved. Oh, and you little girl. The fat man's gaze landed on me. I remembered him from before I passed out, his face getting bigger and bigger. My body couldn't help but tremble. Wasted a whole one on you. You can have half, he said, tearing off half of the only steamed bun he had left and tossing it my way before closing the door and leaving. The room went dark again. The cold, hard bun lay on the floor, half covered in dirt. I stared at the half bun, clenching my hands tightly. The sound of other people chewing kept coming from beside me. I bit my lip, but in the end, I couldn't stand the discomfort in my stomach anymore. I reached out and picked up the bun, taking a bite. I suddenly remembered the boy and carelessly glanced his way. Unexpectedly, I met his eyes. He looked away in a panic, but I still saw him swallow as he looked at the bun in my hand. I looked down at the bun in my hand and tore it in half again, offering one piece to the boy. But the boy's eyes were fixed on the bun, yet he didn't reach out to take it. I extended it towards him again. Eat it. The boy looked away. If they find out you gave me food, you'll get beaten too. Why don't they give you food? Because I tried to escape and bit those people. You're so brave. I couldn't help saying. What's so brave about it? The boy hung his head. I didn't even succeed. But you bit them and tried to escape. I never even thought of that, I whispered, inching closer to him. He looked a little surprised. You don't want to escape? I thought about it and shook my head. I don't know where to run. Mommy and Daddy don't want me anymore. How could your parents not want you? Don't listen to the traffickers, they're all liars. You can't believe what they say. Your parents must be out there looking for you right now. But it was Daddy who gave me to that fat uncle just now, I said, somewhat at a loss in the face of the boy's strong reaction. But at the same time, I felt a little envious. His parents definitely didn't abandon him. The boy fell silent. After a long while he said, "Don't be sad." I didn't know what to say, just felt my eyes getting a little scratchy. I offered him the steamed bun again. Here, eat. This time he didn't reariance. When my parents find me, you can come home with me, he said suddenly after taking a couple of bites of the bun. My head involuntarily turning towards him. But he wasn't looking at me, just seriously eating that small piece of steamed bun. But I don't know why, I was very sure that what he just said wasn't my imagination. Okay, thank you, big brother, I said happily, and then couldn't help but scoot closer to him. The rancher suddenly seemed to have hope again. We'll definitely get out of here. You'll definitely see your parents again. After a while, a soft came from beside me. I bit off a small piece of the steamed bun, a secret smile playing on my lips. That small piece of steamed bun was our food for the day. I don't know how much time passed after that. I was leaning drowsily against my brother. Suddenly, the creaking sound of the main door opening broke through my sleepiness. I couldn't help but clutch my brother's sleeve. My brother, however, pushed me aside. "Quick, go over there. Don't let him see you with me," my brother said rapidly. But the next second he froze. "There are 8 kids," the person outside the door shouted to someone outside. Then he looked at us and said in a softer voice, "Don't be afraid. We've already caught the bad guys outside." As he spoke, he pushed the door wide open, and sunlight streamed into the room. "It's the police. The police are here to save us. The bad guys have been caught." Well, cries and shouts instantly filled the room. "Great! We can go home," my brother exclaimed happily, grabbing my hand. I smiled happily along with him. Seeing that we had all been starved for a long time, the police officers gave us little bread rolls and milk. After we had eaten our fill, they gently asked us if we remembered where our homes were and how to contact our parents. "I remember. My mom's name is Daisy," my brother was the first to stand up and say. The other children also started talking, one after another. I fidgeted with the lint ball on my pants, a sour feeling in my heart. A policewoman noticed I hadn't spoken and walked over to me, crouching down. "Little girl, what's your name?" I remained silent, fiddling with the small lint ball I had picked off, because my name was just a simple girl. Compared to the carefully chosen names of the other children, my name probably didn't even count as a name. "Officer, she's my sister. You can just contact my mom," I heard my brother say. The sour, sad feeling I had just now suddenly vanished. I looked up at him. "So this is what it feels like to have a brother? This feeling is really nice." A wide smile spread across my face, as if I had eaten a super sweet candy. "Big brother, will your mom like me?" That night, my brother and I were put in the same room. I quietly asked my brother, "Mom, she'll definitely like you as much as I do. When we get home, you can live next door to me. I have lots of Legos I can let you play with and race cars and video games. If you like to eat, the kitchen can make anything for you. Mom doesn't like me eating outside food, but if you want to, I can ask the butler to secretly buy it for you, as long as Mom doesn't find out." Listening to my brother, I slowly drifted off to sleep. That night, I had a beautiful dream. In the dream, my brother really was my brother. We lived in a huge house. The house had building blocks made of candy, race cars made of chocolate, and all sorts of color delicious things I couldn't name, and Ryan toys too. When I woke up the next day, it felt like the taste of those delicious things was still in my mouth. I turned to look at my brother to my left, but saw that an auntie had appeared in our room at some point. My heart leaped into my throat. I quickly looked around, confirmed that this was still the house we had fallen asleep in last night, and then relaxed. Since the police officers let her in, she probably wasn't a bad person, right? I looked at the auntie who was sitting by my brother's bed with her eyes closed, seemingly asleep. I was a little scared and also a little curious. Could she be my brother's mom? I don't know if my staring disturbed her, but her eyes twitched a couple of times, and then she opened them. Meeting my eyes, she first paused, then smiled at me. She smoothed out the wrinkles on my brother's blanket where he had pressed them down, and walked lightly to my side. "You're awake. I'm Ryan's mother. Are you hungry? Is there anything you'd like to eat?" When we were in that little dark room, I heard my brother mention that Ryan was his name. I clutched the blanket in my hands and lowered my head. "I'm not hungry." But just then, my stomach growled inopportunely. My face instantly flushed hot. I couldn't help but glance up to peek at Mrs. Ryan's reaction, only to be caught by her. She suppressed a smile. "Can you eat seafood?" I nodded lightly. I had never eaten seafood before, but I should be able to, right? I thought uncertainly. But Mrs. Ryan seemed to have noticed my uncertainty and said, "Never mind. I'm hungry too. Let's have mushroom and vegetable congee together, okay? I've had mushroom and vegetable congee before." I nodded quickly. "Mom." Just then, my brother's voice suddenly rang out. "Ryan, you're awake." Mrs. Ryan turned around in surprise and rushed towards my brother. "How are you? Are you uncomfortable anywhere? Do your injuries still hurt? Are you hungry?" "Mom, I'm fine. I feel great. It doesn't hurt at all." How could it not hurt? Mrs. Ryan said, stroking the wounds on my brother's face, her voice rional of heartache. My brother let his mom stroke him. Suddenly, he caught sight of me out of the corner of his eye. "Oh right, Mom, have you met my sister yet?" "I have. Your sister is much more well-behaved than you little rascal. I was just telling your sister we're having mushroom and vegetable congee for breakfast. Are you having some?" A bitter expression appeared on my brother's face. "Do we have to eat mushrooms? If you don't want to eat it, then don't. I can't force you, can I?" My brother immediately grinned. "Mom, you're the best. If you know I'm good, then give me less to worry about." My brother chuckled, but then, as if remembering something, he glanced towards the door a couple of times, wanting to speak but hesitating. "There was an urgent matter at the company, so I had your father go take care of company business first," Mrs. Ryan said. My brother looked disappointed for a moment, but quickly perked up. "Company matters are important. Dad should go take care of company business first." Mrs. Ryan smiled and patted my brother's head. But I could feel that Mrs. Ryan and my brother didn't actually seem very happy. "Mom, I want to go to the bathroom. Can you come with me?" After Mrs. Ryan ordered the congee, my brother glanced at me and then suddenly said to her. But my brother was clearly past the age of needing his parents to accompany him to the toilet. The excuse was so flimsy even I could see through it. My brother quickly realized this too, his face flushed red, and he ran into the bathroom. Mrs. Ryan immediately followed him in. When he and Mrs. Ryan came out, the congee had just arrived. The thick, fragrant congee filled the air as soon as it was opened. A spoon Ryan in the mouth was more delicious than anything I had ever eaten. I've always wanted a daughter, but I haven't had any luck. Ever since I had Ryan, I haven't been able to get pregnant again. "So, sweetie, would you like to be my daughter?" Mrs. Ryan asked gently after we had eaten and drunk our fill. I had been looking forward to this, but when it actually happened, I don't know why, I hesitated. But my brother didn't let me hesitate for too long. He grabbed my hand and said, "Of course she's willing. Right, sis?" Looking at my brother's expectant eyes, I couldn't help but nod. Then there was a cheer, and my brother hugged me. "Great. From now on you're my sister." I was a little flustered, but the genuine joy welling up in my heart made me hug my brother back. I looked up at Mrs. Ryan, her eyes crinkling with a smile. "How about the name Goldie Ryan? Gold as in the precious metal, and pearl, as in a pearl. Our Ryan family's little pearl." I shyly lowered my head. "Oh, Mom. Wow, your house is huge, big brother. A 3-story house, like a princess's castle in a fairy tale. And it's going to be filled with flowers. It should be our house. From now on, this is your home too," my brother said, taking my hand and showing me around. "This is the dining room, and that's the kitchen. You can tell Auntie if there's anything you want to eat. This is the back garden. Mom often has afternoon tea here. This is your room, but it hasn't been decorated yet, so you can sleep with me for a few days, or with Mom," my brother added reluctantly. "Then I'll sleep with you, big brother, so I don't disturb Mom." My brother instantly cheered up and pulled me into his room, taking out a pile of things and putting them all in front of me. "The Legos, video games, and race cars I told you about before. Let's play together." I looked at them curiously. My former brother had similar toys, but he never let me touch them. I picked up a Lego brick. "How do you play with this?" My brother immediately started showing me how. The afternoon passed just like that. That night, my brother took me to Ryan to fulfill his earlier promise of having the butler secretly buy me snacks. We tiptoed past Mom's room with the snacks the butler gave us, when suddenly we heard Mom's angry voice coming from the slightly ajar door. "Work, work, all you care about is work. What work is more important than Ryan? And what about tonight? Why didn't you come back tonight? Understand you? How else am I supposed to understand you? If you don't want to come back, then don't. Go marry your work, you jerk." My brother's head drooped, and he didn't say another word until we got back to his room. "Brother, don't be sad," I said, awkwardly trying to comfort him. "How about we eat this chicken leg? I've never had fried chicken legs before. I've had it once. Dad had his secretary buy it for me." My brother's voice slowly sounded. I thought for a long time and managed to blurt out, "Was it good?" "It was pretty good." "Then, big brother, should we eat it now?" I asked, holding up a chicken leg. My brother looked up at the chicken leg for a moment. A little while later, we were both lying on the bed, rubbing our stomachs. I know Dad isn't intentionally not coming back. He has a lot of work every day, but I still hope Dad can come back often to spend time with me. Brother, your wish will definitely come true, I said, looking at my brother. The next morning, my brother and I got up to eat breakfast. We saw the back of a man sitting in the dining room. My brother turned around and hugged me. Goldie, Dad, he really came back. I looked up and met Mr. Ryan's gaze. A gift for you. You can call me Dad, Mr. Ryan said, handing me a box. My brother, who had already unwrapped his robot model, leaned over. Quick, open it and see what it is. With everyone watching, I opened the box. Inside was a cute doll wearing a pink dress. I love it. Thank you, Dad, I said, hugging the doll. Dad nodded somewhat stiffly. Mom nudged him with her elbow. Why the long face? Give me a smile. Dad glanced at Mom and then forced a smile. Dad still doesn't look good when he smiles, my brother whispered to me. But noticing Dad and Mom looking over, I knew they had heard my brother's whisper. All morning, my brother was in a great mood, constantly pulling me to talk to Dad. But unfortunately, Dad left in a hurry before lunch. Throughout lunch, my brother ate in silence. But in the afternoon, Dad's secretary brought news. Dad had been hospitalized. Mom, my brother, and I rushed to the hospital as soon as we heard the news. What happened? How did he suddenly lose consciousness? Mom asked anxiously. The vice president hasn't been sleeping much lately, so he couldn't hold on this afternoon and passed out. But it's not a bad thing. This isn't a bad thing? What is a bad thing? I told him not to work all the time, but he wouldn't listen. Now look. Mom said, her voice hoarse. Ma'am, please don't get agitated. Listen to me. The doctor said it was fortunate that this fainting spell brought the vice president to the hospital. That's how they discovered he has a brain tumor. It's benign and treatable. But if it had been discovered later, it would have been difficult to say. Hearing the words brain tumor, my brother's hand tightened around mine. But thankfully, the secretary quickly finished his sentence, and my brother relaxed a bit. However, even so, Dad remained unconscious for a whole day before waking up. After waking up, he recuperated for a few days, and then went into the operating room again. The operating room light was shining brightly. Mom tried to persuade my brother and me to go home and rest, but we rearranged. We sat together at the entrance of the operating room, waiting. Dad will be okay, right? I held my brother's hand. Dad will definitely be okay. Another 3 hours passed. Just when each of us was about to stiffen up, the doors of the operating room finally opened. The surgery was very successful, but post-operative care is still important. Maintain regular rest and diet. Okay, we'll definitely pay attention, Mom said, tears of joy streaming down her face. The next day, we saw Dad lying in bed, being fed congee by Mom while also being lectured. I promise I won't stay up late anymore. I want to spend more time with you all, Dad said. Although his face was still expressionless, it somehow seemed much gentler. Not just staying up late, but also smoking and drinking. Quit all of it. Dad readily agreed. My brother and I looked at each other and both laughed. My brother and I stayed at the hospital for 2 days before Dad and Mom sent us home, using studying as an excuse. My brother was busy catching up on his summer homework, and also had various tutoring sessions and training. I was a bit better off than my brother. I only needed to catch up on the school lessons I had missed. But my brother quietly told me that the content I was catching up on was already for the 2nd or 3rd grade, and I was only supposed to start 2nd grade after the summer vacation. We really are siblings, both just as smart. But even though studying wasn't difficult for us, my brother and I were still very happy to hear that we could go out and play. And this time, both Mom and Dad were taking us out to play. Although Dad had been coming home almost every day since he got back from the hospital, this was the first time he was taking us out to play. So the night before, my brother was too excited to sleep and ran to my room to talk to me until midnight. The next day, my brother woke up yawning constantly, but he still insisted on sitting by my side and giving his opinions while Mom had me choose a dress. How can you play games in a dress that long? This one isn't as pretty as the last one. Won't you die of heat with so many layers? Half an hour later, Mom kicked my brother out. Why didn't I realize he was so annoying before? Mom said, then took out 3 new outfits from the closet. Goldie, do you like any of these? I looked back at the mountain of clothes piled on the bed and, amidst Mom's hesitation, decisively chose an outfit. Finally, half an hour later, we walked out of the room. My brother ran over. Goldie, you look so pretty in this. Like a little princess from a fairy tale. Then I'm the prince. All right, our little prince. Can you take the little princess to breakfast now? Yes, your highness. My brother gestured and pulled me towards the dining room. As I sat down, a servant brought over the breakfast I had chosen earlier. After breakfast, the driver took us to the amusement park. It was already riant of people, but my brother, holding fast pass tickets, quickly led me on a wild playing spree. With the most professional amusement park planner, we didn't have to worry about not getting on rides at all. By noon, the sun was high in the sky. Mom used a tissue to wipe the sweat off both of us. Want some ice cream? Yes. I want strawberry flavor. I want cantaloupe. We both chimed in. Dad was sent by Mom to buy ice cream, and my brother went with him. Because I had so much Ryan in the morning, my braids had come loose. So Mom undid all my braids to re-braid them. However, at that very moment, someone suddenly rushed over. You jinx. So you were here. It was my birth mother. She was wearing old clothes and holding a big broom, looking much thinner and darker than before. Her protruding eyes were bloodshot and glaring at me, as if she wanted to bite me. I was so scared I flinched, but the next second, Mom pulled me into her arms. Meanwhile, on the other side, my birth mother was stopped by 2 big men in black. My birth mother couldn't break free, so she started cursing loudly at the 2 men in black. You're a jinx. A troublemaker. Whoever gets involved with you has bad luck. Your dad's in jail. Why don't you just die? Mom quickly covered my ears, but the things my birth mother had said before were already etched into my mind. Mom wanted to take me and leave immediately, but because of my birth mother's yelling, more and more people gathered around. Mom, holding me, couldn't get out for a moment. Don't be afraid, don't be afraid. Mommy's here. You're our family's most beloved little pearl, the luckiest one, Mom whispered soothingly, trying to suppress her anger. But then my birth mother started shouting over there, everyone come quick and see. The rich people are bullying others. My poor husband didn't do anything, and he got thrown in jail. I finally found my missing daughter, but she won't even acknowledge me and let these people bully me. Everyone, judge for yourselves. Do poor people just deserve to be bullied? Someone in the crowd said, rich people really are no good. This woman is too pity-ryanal. See? That kid is wearing all designer brands. TSK, who knows where all that money came from? That woman is dripping in gold and silver, she's no good either. Listening to the surrounding discussion, a fire ignited in my heart. They didn't know anything. What right did they have to scold Mom? Goldie, don't be afraid. Mom. I clutched Mom's clothes. I have something I want to say to her. Although I didn't explicitly say who she was, Mom understood instantly. She said worriedly, then Mommy will carry you over, okay? Okay. Mom still said worriedly, don't take anything she says to heart. Not all parents are qualified to be parents. Mom, I'm fine. I'm not an uncared for child anymore, so I won't care about those words anymore. Your husband is in jail because he sold me to human traffickers. You didn't want me, so I don't want you anymore. Just then, someone in the crowd also said, hey, I suddenly remembered. Isn't she that weird mom from their neighborhood that my mom told me about? What weird mom? Their whole family favors boys over girls. They were afraid the daughter would absorb the son's good luck, so they sold the daughter. The video of her husband being arrested by the police went viral in the group chat back then. That woman was crying and making a scene next to him, not letting the police take her husband away. My mom said their son was chubby and well-fed, but the daughter was pity-ryanly thin, and didn't even look like she came from the same womb as her brother. Anyone who saw it would say it was a sin. No wonder the little girl doesn't recognize her mom. Her current mom obviously dotes on her. I immediately nodded in agreement. My mommy loves me very much and is very good to me. She's not a bad person at all. She's the best person in the world. My birth mother, flustered by the crowd's murmurs, instantly flew into a rage. You ungrateful brat. Who are you calling mom? I'm the one who gave birth to you. Without me, where would you be? You're not a pig. Did a pig force you to give birth to her? My brother roared like an angry little lion, charging out from the crowd. When she was sold to human traffickers, where were you? What right do you have to scold her? Behind him, Dad walked in holding an ice cream. He handed the ice cream to me, then turned to the staff member in the crowd and said, "Is this your amusement park service attitude? Letting your staff point at customers and curse them?" That staff member was speechless, but a man in a suit who had just arrived immediately apologized pro-Ryan'sly. "I'm sorry, Mr. Ryan. It's all our fault for not managing our employees properly and disturbing your visit. Please rest assured, we will definitely give you a satisfactory explanation." Dad coldly instructed. "What kind of explanation?" The man wiped his sweat and glanced at my birth mother. He seriously violated the amusement park's employee code of conduct. We will terminate his employment. The other employees present who failed to intervene in a timely manner will have their current month's bonuses deducted. Are you satisfied with this arrangement? Why fire me? What did I do wrong? Is it wrong for me to discipline my own daughter? My birth mother sat on the ground and started wailing. But the person who said he would fire her didn't even pay her any attention. He waved his hand and had the security guards forcibly drag her away. I was wrong. Manager, please don't fire me. I still have a son and a mother-in-law to support at home. I can't lose this job. Please give me another chance. My birth mother seemed to realize her mistake, shouting and even trying to grab the manager's arm. But the security guards gave her no chance and dragged her away. At the time, I saw that she was a single mother raising her son and mother-in-law, and it was truly pity-Ryan, so I made an exception and hired her. Originally, she didn't meet our hiring requirements. I'm truly sorry for the unpleasant experience this has caused everyone. Here are some small gifts we've prepared. We hope everyone has a Ryan afternoon. The people who received the small gifts all said it was okay, and some even started cursing my birth mother, saying it was all her fault. The defeated look on my birth mother's face as she was dragged away, and her previous ferocious expression, replayed in my mind. Also, the way those people had agreed with her words before. I didn't understand why they changed so quickly. Dad patted my head and told me, because they don't care about the truth or what's right or wrong. They only care about themselves. I sort of understood, but this matter wasn't completely over yet. A day later, Mom received a call from Grandpa, asking her and Dad to bring me and my brother to the old house to see him. It was then that we learned that the incident at the amusement park had been filmed, twisted, and posted online. Everyone was cursing Mom and Dad for bullying others. "Mr. Ryan, Mrs. Ryan, I beg you, please give me back my daughter." My birth mother wailed in the video. She said Mom and Dad had stolen her child and made her child not recognize her anymore. She begged Mom and Dad to let her go and give her child back. The comments section was filled with curses against Mom and Dad. How can they just make things up? Mom isn't crazy. I wanted to call her Mom myself. I cried angrily as I looked at the comments. Following the method I learned from my brother, I reported the abusive comments one by one. If I couldn't get them removed, I replied to each one. Just as expected from someone from the capital, truly a cut above the rest, huh? Mom and Dad are not stuck up at all. They're very nice. She's already calling them Mom and Dad. So if you have money, you can just call anyone Mom and Dad? Do your real parents know about this? Of course my parents know. Mom walked over to my side with a fruit platter. Our little Goldie can even speak in idioms now. That's great. A small piece of cantaloupe was placed by my mouth. I habitually took a bite, only then belatedly realizing, "Mom, aren't you angry?" Angry? Of course, I'm a little angry. But these people scolding me online don't necessarily truly hate me that much. They might just be using me as an excuse to vent their anger on someone. Mom took my tablet, scrolled a few times, and then showed it to me. Look, there are rational people too. Even if the girl doesn't recognize her. What kind of loving mother would scold her own daughter like that? On the other hand, that Mrs. Ryan looks like she dotes on her daughter much more. It's just that with all these slanderous posts, I wouldn't believe it if someone said nobody organized this. So our cute little Goldie doesn't need to be so angry. You have to believe that Mom and Dad will handle this." As she spoke, Mom fed me another piece of cantaloupe. "But I still don't want you and Mom to be scolded. I want everyone to know that you are the best," I mumbled while chewing on the cantaloupe. 10 minutes later, someone suddenly reposted the announcement of my biological father's arrest and posted about how I was sold from home. Public opinion online instantly reversed. "I told you this woman was no good. Where are all those people who were cursing before? Why aren't they coming out now? If you have the guts, keep cursing." My brother read the online comments and laughed out loud. Someone even said if there was a reversal, he'd eat SHD. "I'm gonna make him eat SHD right now." Saying that, my brother started typing reanriously. Suddenly, my brother exclaimed again. Someone said this whole thing was done by Night Company hiring fake accounts. "Hey, Night Company." My brother explained to me, Night Company is Dad's company's competitor. Recently, they and Dad seem to be competing for a project. If Dad's reputation is ruined, Night might be able to snatch the project away. So they hired people to badmouth Mom and Dad? Exactly. They're so mean. Bad people like them can never beat Dad, I said angrily. That evening, Dad came home and brought us good news. Night reaped what they sowed. Our company's success Ryan Lee won the project. I just didn't expect that an assistant I've used for many years was actually working for Night. Fortunately, he made a stupid mistake this afternoon out of his own muddled thinking. Otherwise, who knows how long it would have taken to discover this pest. This is great news. I'll have Aunt Jo make a few more dishes. Let's celebrate, Mom said happily. So that night, the dining table was piled high with food. Mom even uncharacteristically let Dad have a couple more drinks. Speaking of which, it seems like ever since Goldie came, my work has been going much smoother, Dad said suddenly. Before, there were always endless problems. Now most of them can be handled by my assistants and managers. I suddenly have a lot more free time. So Goldie is our family's little lucky star. Mom put a piece of my favorite dish in my bowl. Here, eat more. You're still too skinny. I happily accepted. By the way, Dad asked us to find some time to bring Ryan and Goldie back for a visit. When do you think would be a good time? Mom asked Dad. Dad, for some reason, seemed a little unhappy. The day after tomorrow. I have a meeting tomorrow. I secretly nudged my brother. My brother leaned close to my ear and whispered, Grandpa wants Dad to go into politics, but Dad prefers doing business, so they've been arguing all along. Last year, Dad's business ran into problems, and when he went back, Grandpa scolded him. Dad got angry and hasn't been back since. But don't be afraid, even if Grandpa argues with Dad, he's very good to us. You're so cute, Grandpa will definitely like you too. But even though my brother said that, I was still very nervous about meeting Grandpa. Especially when I heard Grandpa, with a completely expressionless face, call me over. I care Ryan Lee modal Grandpa's side. Grandpa looked me up and down. I couldn't help but tense up all over. Goldie Ryan. I quickly answered, yes. Take this. Don't tarnish the Ryan family's name. Grandpa picked up a box from the side and gave it to me. This sudden turn of events caught me a little off guard, but I didn't dare make Grandpa wait with his hand outstretched. I quickly took the box. Then, before I could say anything, Grandpa turned to Dad and said, you come with me. With that, Grandpa stood up and walked upstairs. Dad followed behind Grandpa and also went up. Suddenly, a pair of hands rested on mine, guiding me to sit on the sofa. Don't worry, your father will be fine, said the owner of those hands, who was Grandma. She took the box from my hand, opened it, and took out the gold pearl necklace inside, putting it on me. Your grandpa picked this necklace for a long time. He insisted that gold pearls bring wealth and prosperity, and that it matches your name. But I think such a big pendant would be tiring to wear for a long time. But looking at it now, your grandpa's taste is still pretty good. It looks good on you. I touched the gold pig pendant around my neck, feeling a little awkward. There's also a card in the box. My brother took the card out of the box and sat down next to me. Grandma, how much is in here? That I don't know. You'll have to ask your grandpa. With my brother's interruption, I didn't feel so nervous anymore. Mom then asked Grandma what Grandpa had called Dad for. Grandma said Grandpa had been missing Dad for a long time, but was too proud to admit it. As soon as he heard they had a daughter, he couldn't wait to call them back. Sure enough, when Grandpa and Dad came downstairs, the atmosphere between them had clearly softened. When we left Grandpa's house that night, Grandma even told us to come back and visit them often. Grandpa, who was standing beside her, didn't say anything, but there was still anticipation in his eyes. On the way home, I leaned against my brother's shoulder, dozing off. Suddenly, a familiar cry startled me awake. The car also stopped. "Big brother, please let us in. My daughter is in there. I really have no other choice. I beg you, big brother." The cries continued to pour in from outside the window. I looked through the window and saw a stooped figure kneeling on the ground, constantly begging, while also pressing down on the little boy beside him, making him kneel too. I recognized them. They were my biological mother and brother. Unlike when I left home, when he was always well taken care of, my brother's clothes were loose and ill-fitting. The security guard noticed our car had stopped and sent someone over to explain the situation. My birth mother immediately switched targets and dragged my brother towards us. Even though the security guard stopped her, she knelt directly in front of the car, hoping to beg the people in the car to help put in a good word and let them in. But when the car window rolled down and Mom's face appeared, her expression changed. There was a fleeting moment of resentment, but the next second, she started pleading pity-Ryanly again. Mrs. Ryan, I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have spoken ill of you online. I was wrong. Please let us go. My mother-in-law is bedridden, and my son is so young. Our whole family, young and old, really can't survive anymore. Even if you don't do it for my sake, do it for the sake of my daughter. And her brother. My birth mother pressed down on my brother's neck. Lucky, quick, say something. Ask Auntie to let us go. My brother's face clearly showed reluctance, but he still couldn't break free from my birth mother's hand and was forced down, his eyes real of hatred as he looked at Mom. Even I could see what was happening, so how could Mom not? What girl? She's our Ryan family's Goldie. And your son playing with fire and burning down the house. What does that have to do with our Ryan family? Manage your son properly. That's more use, Ryan'll, than begging anyone. You should be thankful, Ryan'll, that only your own house burned down this time. After speaking, Mom rolled up the car window. Mrs. Ryan. My birth mother still wanted to plead, but her phone rang. Please give me some more time. I'll definitely be able to raise the money. My daughter is at her house. The Ryan family is rich. Please give me a little more time. Mom said, let's go. The car started moving again. I heard my birth mother yelling from behind, give me $1 million. And girl will be your daughter from now on. We'll definitely never come back again. Mrs. Ryan. Mom said, Goldie, your favorite cartoon is about to start. Let's hurry, okay? My brother also took my hand. I can watch it with you tonight. Previously, my brother had dismissed cartoons as childish and Ryans to watch them. My mood suddenly lightened. Okay, brother, you better not go back on your word. The end.